Good morning all. Very warm welcome to you this morning. Just to make sure that we're all in the right place, you have joined the webinar, the One Group's webinar on how to create a learning culture for continuous development. I'm very grateful to have Darren Jenkins here from the Marshall Centre joining us. Darren will be introducing himself as he's much better placed to do that than I am, so I shan't try and do that on his behalf. Just to introduce myself, my name's Catherine Wallace. I'm head of operations at the One Group. This is the bit where I just waffle on for a couple of minutes just while people join. We've got a fair few people with us already, so hopefully we will see a few more joining over the next minute or so, and then we'll get started. Most of you will know the One Group already. We have a fairly loyal following on these webinars. We are essentially a recruitment business with offices in Cambridge, Peterborough and Northampton, various divisions. Please do have a look at our website if you're not familiar with us. This morning is not about recruitment. We are here with, as I say, with Darren from Marshall Centre to learn about all things in terms of cultures of learning and continuous development, which is something that I'm sure we've all had to get to grips with in one way or another over the last year or so. So really interested, Darren, to hear what you've got to say on that, to field some questions at the end. In terms of our place here, so the One Group, we have a sort of beyond recruitment offering, whereby we aim to sort of speak to clients about things other than recruitment, just to get the conversation going, really. We've worked with Marshalls for many years. I'm sure many of you are familiar with the brand. Marshall Centre is something that's perhaps not as kind of well known, so really keen to allow Darren to introduce that part of the business to you this morning as well. Couple of things just to kind of make you aware of in terms of the format. So Darren will get started any moment now. I can't actually see how many. Oh, got okay, yeah. So we're about half full at the moment. So we'll just give it another moment or so. We do have various functions, and we have the Q&A function, which is what we'll be using for the questions and answers at the end. So Darren will run through his PowerPoint and his presentation, and then we will deal with questions at the end. There is also a chat box which we will keep an eye on, but that's really more for sort of a general chit chat sort of throughout the session, and Darren may want to use that for other things. So please, questions that you want answering, put in the Q&A function, and we will look at those at the end. Darren, do you want to introduce yourself now? I think we probably just need to fill another minute or two while we wait for the last few people to arrive, but I don't want to commandeer, so please do introduce yourself.
Yes, good morning everyone. Yes, Darren Jenkins, I'm the head of learning and development at Marshall Centre. I guess I've been with the business probably just over a year now, probably 14 months. So Marshall Centre are part of the Marshall Group, the privately owned Marshalls of Cambridge. Our mission really is to kind of help future-proof organisations. Now, whether that's through apprenticeships or the upskilling of line managers and team leaders through professional qualifications, project management and things like that, but also to help organisations try and stay ahead of the curve. That's kind of our mantra, our strapline, if you would like to say. It's about staying ahead of the curve, and we do that through continuous learning and innovation, which kind of is what we're here today, is really about learning and innovation. Marshall Centre focus on aviation excellence, so all things about keeping these military aircraft, up in the air. So we're training their engineers on how to fix and maintain the aircraft. We look at leadership, management, engineering apprenticeships, and we work closely in partnership with Cranfield School of Management. And I brokered a partnership with Cranfield last year, where we can now offer, between us, we can now offer that almost that cradle to grave learner journey from level 2 to level 8 and beyond. So I think that's a really, really nice partnership for us. Certainly it works really well when organisations come to us looking for level 7, level 8, and we can work in partnership and hand them over to Cranfield, and likewise when organisations come to Cranfield and they're looking for levels 3 or 5, then they can pass them over to us as well. So it's a really good reciprocal relationship, and that's starting to come to fruition now. So that's kind of Marshall Centre in the last minute or so. How's that, Catherine? Is that okay?
Yep, that sounds good. Looks like the numbers are fairly stable now. So I think as we're almost 6 minutes in. So let's get started. I'll turn my video off and leave you to it to share your slides, and then I shall reappear at the end to field some questions. Okay.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. So I think what I'm just going to do now is I'll share my screen, and we'll start from the beginning, which is obviously the best place to begin. I will just say, and I apologise for this, I'm suffering from a cold, and us men are like when we get cold, but so hopefully I'll manage to get through this okay. But today's webinar is about this learning culture for continuous innovation, and I really want to kind of, if I can, set the scene for today. If you look at the disruption that the global pandemic has caused, machine learning, the ability and the development of computers, systems that are able to learn, through artificial intelligence, the metaverse, all these disruptions continue to challenge and affect how and when we work, what jobs we do, how we do business. And this means that our people are the guys who work for us, they need to be more flexible and continue to develop their skill sets to keep up with almost the evolution of work itself. So at Marshall Centre, I want to kind of share some of the stuff that I've been looking at in my role. I want to share some insight around the learning culture, what it is, how to create those continuous learning opportunities in your organisation. And the really important bit here is how you do that, that taps into and enhances the potential of those that you lead, as managers, but in a way that works best for them, that inspires them to push themselves to achieve more and kind of reach their full potential. So really, this is a collaboration of inspirational leadership and a learning culture. So I really want to try and answer some questions around, so what is a learning culture and how do you create it? So why is that important? And I think that's really, really a significant question that we need to look at, and why it's important we need to do that. What's the relevance behind it? And of course, accessibility for learning is really important as well. So just want to kind of finish off on relevance and accessibility. We'll probably take about 45 minutes or so. As Catherine's already said, we'll have some questions at the end, but I'll work through the slides, and we'll get you guys involved if we can as well. So question is, what is a learning culture and how can you create it? So in preparation for this, I wanted to kind of understand, so what's the definition? What is a learning culture? So when you look at the CIPD or CMI or the Learning Performance Institute, everyone has undertaken so much research around how to define a learning culture that there's no real one unifying definition or theory or common concept. But for me, I like to keep things really, really simple. So if they can't understand and agree on one unifying definition, this is what I like and I've seen and read. It's about a learning culture is one that embeds learning into how things are done in an organisation. It's about keeping things really, really simple. However, it may be about keeping things simple regarding the definition. The idea of establishing or improving a learning culture is incredibly complicated, and there are numerous reasons as to why that is. So culture of any kind is unique to that organization and combines all its artifacts and traditions, and not just those that are related to learning. A company's culture cannot be owned by a particular department or an individual or a cause, and it cannot be mandated or as an initiative or anything like that. As I said, it's a tough concept to define, and every organization has some form of learning culture, but some just have better ones than others. I guess what we do know is that a learning culture is the way that an organization provides permission to share knowledge and experiences, to learn from failure, to develop and to adapt. And it also makes huge difference in the way organizations operate and grow. A high-performing learning culture is one where individuals, leaders, teams, L&D departments are working together to share, grow, and adapt for the benefit of the business. Now, can I show you this slide? And you've probably already seen this slide before and probably seen this quote from Richard Branson, but train people well enough so they can leave, treat them well enough so they don't want to. I love that quote. It does what it says on the tin. Because when companies place an emphasis on people and the learning culture, where their people consistently improve their skills and share their knowledge, those organizations and businesses see greater innovation and growth. A recent report suggested 98% of learning and development managers say that creating a positive culture of learning is a priority for them. And at Marshall Centre, we saw that as a priority. So when I joined, it was about what do we need to do to reframe what we do at the moment so that we can support a positive culture of learning. I guess firstly, it was really important to understand and consider the current status quo. What's the current learning environment like within Marshall Centre? Before you try and do anything about creating or embedding a learning culture, you need to understand what the current status quo is. Because ultimately it's about change, isn't it? So at Marshall Centre, we reviewed past engagement surveys, because they might have thrown up items about how we influence or how we make decisions. Are there opportunities where we've learned from mistakes that have been made? We have reviewed the uptake of learning opportunities. What kind of learning was being undertaken and by whom? We examined the learning transfer. And that is an important indicator of Marshall Centre's support for learning. If our employees weren't able to use what they've learned in formal training and then apply it back in their jobs, that could have been an indicator of maybe a lack of support for managers. So these are all things that we needed to look at and to take in consideration before we took some positive steps forward to create a learning journey. And I want to kind of share some of those steps that we took with you. So, excuse me. So create a blameless culture. Easier said than done. When people make mistakes, they're less likely to admit when they've failed. Excuse me, what's going on here? There we go. They're less likely to admit when they fail. There's that inherent lack of trust. Where people fear blame or reprisal, they're less likely to share ideas or champion the ideas of others. And that is a crucial element of innovation. And likewise, employees may be more reluctant to positively engage in finding solutions to address errors or prevent risk. It's where they do not trust that they have the support of their colleagues or the organization. That impact can be quite significant, particularly when you consider, I guess, highly regulated or safety conscious environments like medicine, construction, and our industry, aviation. So reflecting on failure is an important part of individual and team learning. And I guess sometimes your people will fail. It does happen. But shifting the focus from finger pointing to collaborative reflection. So when mistakes happen, that allows everyone to learn from failure and improves, what we do and how we do it. And ultimately, you can improve processes. Okay, so that's easy to say what a blameless culture is, but what does it look like, and how could the positive outcomes be associated and support innovation? Let's have a look at that. So a blameless culture is one that is solutions focused, culture with this mindset that concentrate on the actions required to address mistakes and to move from the current to the desired position. There's a positive focus on learning to generate innovation and improvement, which is more likely to ensure action is taken responsively with less time wasted, to kind of seek out to attribute blame or anything like that. A blameless culture is future focused. Rather than being preoccupied with the past, organizations that can balance the prior learning with attention to the future vision, where do we need to get to? What does better look like? They are more likely to create constructive optimism that's beneficial for innovation going forward. A blameless culture, is where individuals lead by example. That means you're guiding others through your behaviors and inspiring them to do the same. Going back to that inspirational leadership. Ways to lead by example, follow through on your promises. And it's the foundation of trust, isn't it? Do what you say you're going to do. That shows your team your level of commitment and helps them to place their confidence in you as a leader. You might find that they are more willing to ask questions, take on extra responsibility, and to be more engaged within the team. If an employee feels that they can trust their leader and that you will follow through, they are more likely to trust you. If they don't, they're going to be disengaged and unproductive. I think it's really important as leaders to work alongside your team. The most effective leaders work alongside their team, even if they have their own office, spend a lot of time outside with their team as an impartial member of that team. At Marshall Centre, all members of the senior leadership team, we do not have our own office or desk. We sit wherever we want, whenever we want, depending who's in the office and when. And maybe we've got to work one individual on a particular project for a day or half a day or whatever. If you work closely with your team, that helps foster and build trust and can also positively impact, team morale. So that's been a really bit of a game changer for us, really. And I think it's also really important that as leaders at Marshall Centre, we were clear that we also needed to attend workshops and training sessions. We still have room to grow as leaders. It's important to show your team that you realise that, so that they realise that you don't have all the answers. But I am also committed to gaining knowledge and education and insight so I can excel in the role that I do. Again, that will help them trust your leadership, and it certainly helped with my team. They also feel inspired and to find out similar opportunities for themselves on conferences or networking. A few members of my team, because I have a coach, because I have a mentor, they are asking me, well, how do I get a mentor? I want to benefit from that as well. And I do that because I listen to them. Everyone has something of value to add in the conversation. Listening to your team shows that you respect them as people and what they do and how they do it. And ultimately, you want to know more about them so that you can lead them more effectively. blameless culture, I think this is a really, really important one, is a collaborative culture. It underpins successful, innovative learning cultures. There are cohesive teams in which the different skills and perspectives are combined, with multiple resources. In that cognitive diversity, collaboration is all about bringing people together from different departments, locations and teams, and focusing their efforts on a common goal. Cognitive diversity is huge at the moment. If you like reading, the Rebel Ideas by Matthew Side, there's a huge piece in there about cognitive diversity and the positive impact it can have, within teams. But there are six key skills for a collaborative workforce, and I just want to kind of quickly zoom through what those 6 key skills are for a collaborative workforce. Being open-mindedness. Yeah? It's one of the most important aspects of collaborating. It's being open to and accepting of new ideas. It's about learning, isn't it? It's about communication is absolutely key. Clear and thoughtful communication is a must-have for successful collaboration. So many organizations do not communicate effectively, and collaboration comes from, effective communication as well. Organization is a crucial skill for collaboration. It can't be successful unless people are able to delegate workloads and take care of their responsibilities and kind of keep themselves organized. Another key skill for collaboration is long-term thinking. It's about envision the end result of your collaborative work. What's the shared vision and purpose? And being open to sharing that so people know why they are doing what they're doing. There's that sense of purpose of being. Okay. Adaptability is another key skill. It's a crucial collaborative skill. It's another one of those, difficult to teach, but adapting well to change comes from practice and experience, the desire to be more adaptable and the discipline to give it a go. And guess what? It goes back to leading by example. Really, really key. I guess one of the final key skills for great collaboration is the ability to debate. Being able to tactfully and productively debate ideas with your colleagues, I guess, without taking it too personally, so that when you're in a meeting room, with your team, debate is often, it should be the driver of innovation. The good ideas should take precedence. What you don't want is the good ideas take a back seat, otherwise the project will not move forward. So there's some really, really top skills there for a collaborative workforce. I guess I just want to finish off on the blameless culture and what does a good blameless culture look like. Recognition is absolutely key and really, really important. Recognition of the behaviors that support a more open, collaborative, no blame culture helps to generate trust and promote engagement to make, the cohesion required for innovation and to be more accessible. Celebrating success is often cited as key to generating a positive morale. So now that I've shared how to create a blameless culture, it's time to talk about creating what those learning opportunities and how you do that. So it's about creating opportunities for individual and group learning, and this is key when you're trying to create this learning culture. Learning needs to take place in a supportive environment that allows employees to apply their learning. That is key. That's absolutely key. Leaders and managers should consistently communicate what the learning opportunities are within their organisation. Certainly at Marshall Centre, we use infographics sent round or posters up on walls to continually communicate what is going on, what's available. Managers and leaders need to highlight how continuous learning benefits the individuals, the team, and the organisation. If people can understand that, they're more likely to get involved, to want to learn. And as managers and leaders, we should consider how opportunities to reflect and share learning can be used to follow up on formal learning and can be encouraged as sort of individual development. Ensuring, and this is everyone knows this, but ensuring every person who works in an organisation has a personal development plan, keeps them focused on their learning and professional development. It sends out that clear message, you know, that your colleagues and staff, they're working in an environment that is supportive of their learning journey. So many organisations don't do that, and it's really, really key that they do. Again, creating opportunities, you know, for line managers to become coaches and mentors will not only develop their own leadership skills, but will ensure that their direct reports also feel supported in their learning. You know, and organisations need to provide different types of learning opportunities that appeal to different age ranges and different experience levels to keep staff engagement high. So, you know, at Marshall Centre, we offer 15-minute bite-sized sessions on a Wednesday morning. We offer an hour session on a Friday afternoon. We offer formal learning, qualifications. You know, you mix it up, and blended learning is really, really important in what you can offer. And make sure that you communicate those clearly across the business to ensure inclusivity. I think creating opportunities for group learners can be seen as more challenging, but I think teams are a great place where social learning takes place. Within organisations, you know, line managers need to understand their role in supporting learning, whether it's formal or informal, and as managers, you should prioritise time and resources for that. You need to build support for learning and development to management objectives, encourage line managers to be role models, to demonstrate how learning is part of everyone's role, and to share their learnings with their team as well. So within Marshall Centre, we wanted to encourage colleagues to expand their knowledge and skill sets, but then to share what they've learned with others. You know, we recognise that we have a wealth of knowledge, experience and skills across the whole organisation. And so it kind of made sense to create opportunities for staff to teach each other. So, you know, I mentioned Friday afternoon, so we have hive mind sessions. And that is a great opportunity for everyone within the business, from entry level to senior leadership team, to teach us something new. Generally, these lessons last between 30 and 60 minutes. They include some kind of practical or interactive element, and a different person volunteers to kind of lead those hive mind sessions. And it could be about anything that others might find interesting or useful. It is such a great opportunity for participants to learn from their colleagues. It creates that kind of all-inclusive level playing field. It's open to all. It kind of helps build confidence in presentation skills for the person delivering. So we've had individuals deliver workshops on active listening, servant leadership, tips for email organization. We had a stretching session. We've had, you know, how do you read body language? And then for the older generation like myself, you know, how do you use Instagram? Because I had absolutely no idea. So, you know, these sessions have been really, really useful. So those hive minds are really, really beneficial. Another key aspect with regards to creating a learning culture is a growth mindset. Now, I'm sure you've heard of fixed mindset, growth mindset. You know, Carol Dweck has done some great TED Talks and great books around the growth mindset. But it's so important, because when it comes to problem solving, a growth mindset allows you to focus on the solutions rather than the problems. You know, people with a growth mindset tend to embrace challenges and change more often. They persist when there are setbacks. They welcome critique, as a learning opportunity, and that they can find lessons and inspiration from the success of others as well. Individuals with a growth mindset enjoy collaboration and believe that there is always a way to improve. These are valuable traits, in the workforce of the future, and should be something that business leaders and managers champion and nurture. Fortunately, I'm sure but a growth mindset can be developed and can be nurtured in people over time. And again, that should form part of the learning and development strategy to help kind of future-proof businesses. I just want to share with you, some widely recognized characteristics of a growth mindset. So it's the whole concept that actually growth mindset believe that intelligence and talents can be developed. Okay? Absolutely. You can't develop IQ, but you can develop EQ and other skills and traits as well. Growth mindset individuals believe that effort is the path to mastery. And I mentioned Carol Dweck earlier, a great TED talk around effort, and being rewarded for effort will push children and adults further to do more, to achieve more. If people are rewarded because they achieve, well, I've achieved, why would I want to go any further? So it's, that effort is the path to mastery. Growth mindsets about, believe that making mistakes are an essential part of learning, and they are seen as just temporary setbacks, but also as an opportunity to learn. And that's really, really, really important. And I think a growth mindset, I mentioned it earlier, they embrace challenges. They really, really do. So I think before we move on, I just want to kind of talk more about why is all this important. We spoke about embedding the learning culture, how you might want to do that, but it's really important to understand, why do we want to do that? Why is it important? Why should we do it? So there are some clear benefits as to why we should do that, and research has shown that organizations in which learning has a positive impact on behaviors, conversations, relationships, and levels of collaboration, but which is also supported by learning and training programs, experience improved growth through greater innovation. Employee motivation and engagement, I guess that sense of purpose, is so important. Research found that when employees feel that their organization has a continuous learning culture, they're more likely to be motivated to transfer that learning back into their workplace and into their job. And if you're interested in the research, Dr. Wendy Shepherd at Cranfield, she's the Director of Individual and Organizational Impact, has done a great paper on the impact of learning for individuals. And it is about behaviours, relationships, conversations, collaboration. But growth through innovation, this is absolutely why you need to embed a learning culture within your business. Okay. Organisations are more profitable through improved performance and greater customer satisfaction. Knowledge management and the knowledge sharing are strongly correlated with a learning culture. Organisations that have a strong culture for learning have better knowledge management practices, such as training employees to transfer skills, and that in turn is linked to stronger human capital and improved organisational performance. Okay, the benefit of creating a culture of continuous learning, transformation and productivity. What's that mean? So organizations experience greater levels of transformation. They have a greater capacity to solve problems using that cognitive diversity, and to be able to respond with agility and pace and pragmatism to changing business conditions and customer expectations. Organisations experience greater productivity through individuals and teams being more effective in what they do and more efficient in how they do it. Okay, so why else should we create a culture of continuous learning? Okay, there is this human element, of course, which is probably fundamental as to why you could do this. Greater job satisfaction, the organisational commitment and reduced turnover has a positive impact. Organisations that prioritise and support learning can help create a fulfilling and satisfying environment for employees. The presence of a learning culture is positively associated with job satisfaction. That creates individual and organisational commitment. When an organisational culture allows employees to learn on a continual basis whilst being supported by their line manager, they show greater levels of commitment towards the business, and that can help reduce their intention to leave. Now, given what I've shared, it's important for you to consider what you and your organisations can do to support learning and the organisation's ability to adapt and improve based on that learning. You also need to consider the barriers that stand in the way of learning, and then explore how to overcome such barriers. Okay, and that includes the importance of assessing, the current state of learning environment within the organisation. Something I mentioned earlier on. Okay, so I want you to think and consider with your organisation what the potential barriers are and how you might overcome those. So the last couple of things I want to share with you, around the relevance of learning. A learning culture supports people to, enhance and develop their career paths, allows them to establish feelings of connectedness and engaged, they're engaged in meaningful work. When people are intensely engaged in learning new things, their well-being and happiness improves. So not only will that learning culture ensure the organisation thrives, but it also demonstrates agility and that they can move at pace. It will increase employee engagement and satisfaction, and also, positively impact life, and work, and also the career. I think last and quite importantly is accessibility is really, really key. To support a positive learning culture, you have to have easy access to learning content and experiences. It should be easy for your learners to find and access learning materials that they need. It needs to exist before they try and find it. But there are so many things out there that people can just access whenever they want, however they want it, whether it's Bookburn or Mind Tools or webinars like this. LinkedIn Learning is really good. Internal training content that you might have. The hive minds that we run on a Friday. And so the content needs to exist and be accessible for everyone, whenever they want it, however they want it. Okay? And need to be able to find it. So we have all our training on OneDrive in folders. And of course, things like YouTube and TED Talks, remove limitations around people being able to access things like that, whilst at work. They want to learn at work, make sure they can access things like YouTube or learning platforms. Trust that they will learn and apply that learning back in the workplace. Learners need structure, and you as managers need to support them and help that transition to a more self-directed approach to learning. So many organisations where learners wait for something to happen to them. It's now about self-directed approach. Don't wait for something to happen. If you want to learn, learn. And we can help that with competency frameworks and job profiles and learning plans. They all help to provide that kind of the scaffolding, as it were. So as learning starts to shape their own path to personal improvement and development. I just want to summarize, so what is a learning culture? Let's keep it really simple. It is one that embeds learning in the way that things are done within an organization. Okay, but how do you do that? It's about creating a blameless culture. It's about creating opportunities for individuals and group learning, and it's about encouraging a growth mindset. Why should you do it as business leaders? It is about actually organizations show greater growth through innovation because people are able to learn and apply their learning and learn from failure and have that growth mindset. Organizations are more profitable. They have through improved performance. There are greater levels of transformation and productivity. And most importantly, I think there are greater job satisfaction, organizational commitment, and reduced turnover of staff. So I'm conscious I've been talking for about 35 minutes non-stop. I want to say that thank you for listening. I'm going to throw it open to Catherine if there's any questions. I just want to say thank you very much. And yeah, happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Darren. Really interesting stuff. I mean, it's, it is so hard to create change in an environment, isn't it? We've recently implemented a new system which completely sort of derailed our day-to-day life. And yeah, just trying to get people to kind of move through change whilst continuing the day job is so challenging. So some really good insight there. Thank you for sharing that. We've had a couple of questions come through. So please, everybody, if you have got any questions, do put them in the Q&A, and I'll have a quick look in a moment. But a couple of things that have come through to me directly. I guess, are there any models or any sort of anything that we can look at to sort of measure the success? I mean, I guess, that the first part, something that occurred to me when you first started talking is, I guess you have to start from a place of real self-reflection and be really honest with yourselves about how good you are at implementing change and how you've gone about it in the past. Because I think there's probably many companies that think they're probably very good at it, but perhaps, still need to really consider some of the points that you've made. So once you've sort of assessed that sort of opening position and what you need to do, is there anything sort of quite tangible that people can use to sort of, really signpost whether they're going to end up where they want to be with it or whether they're going off piste halfway through?
It's interesting. I think typically in the world of L&D, we're not necessarily that good at measuring the impact of what we do. And learning culture is, culture is a very difficult thing to measure. And the impact of learning is a difficult thing to measure. I'm fortunate enough to spend some time, like I mentioned, Dr. Wendy Shepherd at Cranfield, and she a paper on the impact of organizational impact on learning for individuals and organizations. And she came down to, it's not necessarily about people being better to do their jobs, it's about the behaviors. It is about, is what you're learning going to improve behaviors? Is it going to, change conversations? Is it going to improve relationships? Is it going to enhance collaboration? And I think if you can start to look at, okay, are conversations changing? Is the quality of the conversation improving? Are those maybe fractured relationships, are they now moved to a more stable state? Is collaboration improving? Are we now including more people? Is there more inclusivity? It's difficult to measure that. But I think what we've seen within Marshall Centre, there's a willingness for people to get involved at all levels of the business within projects. And it's not typically, they're always involved, it's actually everyone has an opportunity to put the name in the hat to say, actually, I want to be involved in that because I think it's an area that I want to learn more about. And I think that just demonstrates to us that the growth mindset is there. People want to learn, they want to be involved.
Yeah, oh, sorry, I was just going to say, actually, that leads quite nicely into a question that we've had in the Q&A. Thank you, Keith. All this seems to propose that you can now get staff into the classroom, but what if there's a lot of resistance to that from both managers and their teams? You know, it's interesting, you're talking about people that are keen to get involved, but actually quite often there's people that are like, no, thanks, we don't need it, we're quite happy. And, you know, that's difficult, isn't it? Because it can really derail and kind of take away from the motivation that others have.
Yeah, I think we have to accept that there are some people, and it is okay for people to just want to come to work and do their job and go home. Absolutely. But do that as best as you can. And it's having an honest conversation about, you know, those individuals about, you know, do that job as best as you can. And what I found is when you have conversations with individuals, there are underlying reasons why they don't want to attend, or why they can't, why they don't want to get involved. And actually, they probably haven't understood, or they don't understand that they can have a positive impact. So this is where the communication comes in, it's clarity in communication and giving people opportunities. But, you know, we have people who can learn in a classroom, online. You know, they can read books, they can watch videos, they can attend workshops, they can, you know, they can run the hive mind sessions. One of our instructors ran a hive mind on hedgehogs. He's passionate about wildlife and hedgehogs. And do you know what? And for a Friday afternoon, after a busy week, I think we all left that hive mind. We've learned something new, about John and his passion for hedgehogs, about hedgehogs. You know, we always knew John was a prickly character anyway. And now we definitely know he loves hedgehogs.
No, that's good. That sounds like a perfect way to end a Friday. But no, that's a really good point, actually. And certainly we found that in our recent change project. You know, those that are resistant, you're absolutely right. There's usually a reason for that. And actually the more sort of, emotionally intelligent leaders would be straight onto that. And actually they would probably end up being the greatest ambassadors of change once they've overcome their hurdle. Because as you say, it probably is maybe fear, or just uncertainty, and those sort of things are quite often prevalent underlying, aren't they?
I think what we've seen, certainly within, I guess, the workshop and where our apprentices are, there are some individuals there that have been with the business for 30, 40, 50 years. In fact, our lead facilitator has been with the business 50 years. He started as an apprentice. He's now the lead facilitator. And he doesn't want to get involved because ironically, he's so passionate about passing on that knowledge and sharing his skills with the learners. He doesn't feel that he can learn anything else. Well, actually, having spent some time with him and get to know him, he's really open to learning new things. And actually now he's attending the session in a few weeks about being a better coach and being a better mentor to learners. Because actually, what I've aligned that offering with is his passion to help his learners improve. So what I'm saying to him is, if I help you become a better coach, a better mentor, that will have a positive impact on your learners. And that's your driver. Your driver is about your learners having a better experience. You want to help that. So let me help you help that, So I think people, there is some, this is the way it's always been, not allowed to think for ourselves. Certainly from the older generation within our business, this is the way it's always been. What do you mean I can make a decision? What do you mean I can go and do something if I want to? Yeah, you're allowed. You've got that autonomy. You're an adult. We trust you to make the right decision and get on. And if you do make a mistake, then learn from it. You won't do it again.
There's certainly plenty of people in our organisation at the other end of the scale as well, who are very new to the working world, who still think that their way is best. And I think there's always going to be resistance. It's down to personality, isn't it? And I suppose that's what leadership is all about, sort of managing people by individual rather than en masse, and trying to sort of blend that with the needs of the business as well. It's going to be a challenge today, tomorrow, next week, and forevermore, I would imagine, but always interesting to see how these things evolve.
Yeah, I mean, we have learners from 17, 18 we have adult trainees now on apprenticeship, and you have that such a broad spectrum of ages and different demographics. We have to be adaptable. We have to, as managers and leaders, encourage learning and how they want to learn. And also the options for blended learning, remote learning, coming into the workshops. We have to be really flexible and adaptable, and we've invested in excess of £20,000 in new tech and new laptops and in new interactive screens that I now have to learn how to use interactive screens. I used them a few years ago, but guess what? They moved on. And now I'm doing a hybrid training session in a few weeks. And actually, so I'll be having someone remote from Liverpool, and I'll have a group of people within the classroom as well. So even I'm having to learn. And I think when my team see that I'm open to learning as well, they're more open to it. Like I said, I have a coach, I have a mentor. It's that level of transparency. And so actually, it's okay to admit that we don't have the answers as managers and leaders. And we still need to. I want to be a better manager, a better leader, so I need to learn. And that level of transparency helps. And my team trusts me, and I think that's really, really important. Yeah,
humility is definitely the undervalued sort of piece of leadership, good leadership, isn't it? So I was just going to say, we've got one more question. Thank you, Nicola, and thanks for your comment in the chat as well. She's complimenting you on how much this has helped in her CIPD module, up and coming. So that's great stuff. And final question from Nicola again. Thank you. What do you think are the biggest barriers to creating a learning culture?
I think if you have to overcome a culture that's already in place. And I think with Marshall Centre, we had that of, this is the way it's always been, this is how we work, this is how we operate. And then when we restructured the organisation and we wanted to move to a learning culture, there's a huge barrier around people not understanding what a learning culture is and why it's important. As long as you communicate in a way that they understand as to why we need to do this, and how are we going to do it, and what the end goal will look like. I think that's important. So trying to change a culture is very, very difficult. People will always say they don't have time. And that's something we constantly hear, is we don't have time. So it's about, okay, then help me understand why you don't have time. And it's literally, I sat down with my team and, so now we reorganized all of our meetings so that we're not duplicating efforts, so that the right people are going to the right meetings at the right time. It's okay to decline a meeting, for even if it's a team meeting, if there are valid reasons as to why you should do that. It's giving people time and saying, actually, if you don't want to attend because you want to do X, Y, and Z, it's okay to do that. It's put the power in their hands. But time is always a factor, because people have their own understanding of what busy looks like. So I don't use the word busy, but you're focused, and because it's a more positive language. It reframes that activity of, I'm too busy to attend. Well, actually, I'm just focused on a particular piece of work at the moment, and I need to make sure I get this done in time. So I think, existing cultures are difficult to overcome, and then the time barrier, there will always be people who don't have time.
Yeah. I guess it's the same with any sort of, whatever you're managing, you've got to kind of try and get people to want to do it, haven't you? Because it's much easier to kind of propel forward if people have their own momentum than if you're trying to drag them. And that's the same with anything, really, isn't it? It's worth the investment of time to get it right and to get that motivation going before you start trying to move.
Yeah, I think the last thing, the challenge we've had is we're empowering people to make decisions, to come up with solutions, and that's been quite different from how they used to operate. So generally, the teams would come to us with, "There's this particular problem. What are you going to do about it?" Well, I'm not going to do anything about it. What are you going to do about it? And it kind of throws them for a moment and say, "Well, actually, no. what do you think the best solution is? Well, you need to do X, Y, and Z. Okay, off you go and do it. And then so we created this Dan's Den. So Dan is our general manager. We did this Dan's Den so that the team members can come up with ideas of whether it's new resources or new technology, and they pitch for investment. Say, actually, this is a challenge or a particular challenge I'm facing or an issue. This is a solution, and I want some investment. And all of those pitches that have happened this year have been invested in.
Great, like a mini Dragon's Den almost.
Yeah, absolutely. And it works.
That's great. That's brilliant. I mean, really good sort of practical tips and advice and ideas in there amongst some of the theory as well. Thank you, Darren. Really interesting, and you know, hopefully everybody that's been involved has been able to take something away from that. I know I have. You know, we're constantly trying to change, and in a pressured environment, that's really hard. So it's been really useful. I think we are probably sharing slides. If anybody wants them, certainly able to do that. And the recording will be available as well. I think that we will probably be sharing your details with our attendees if you're happy for us to do that. And then if anybody wants to set up, you know, kind of, you know, contact you with any other questions afterwards, then are you happy for them to do that?
And actually, I think Nicola, if you want any help, support as a mentor for your CIPD module, let me know. Happy to help.
Right. That's very kind. So thank you, Darren, and to everybody for taking the time to listen. Just a quick mention of our next webinar that we have coming up. Very well subscribed already, but still, as with any webinar, plenty of room for everyone. It is Menopause in the Workplace on the 30th of November at 9:30. Very hot topic right now, and something that we're really keen to share some sort of a conversation on. Really, we are being joined by Deborah Garlick from an organisation aptly entitled Menopause in the Workplace. So very much does what it says on the tin. Really looking forward to that. As I say, lots of people involved in that. We've got over 150 attendees so far, so hoping to get some good questions on that as well. So please do register for that if that's of interest. But thank you, Darren, again. Really interested to find out more about Marshall Centre and also about innovation and continuous learning. I think that's it. We will let you all go and enjoy the rest of your days. Thank you for joining us as always, and we'll hope to see you again soon.
Yeah, lovely. Thank you very much. Take care.
Thanks. Bye.